Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Leg Man. A little bit more of an off-the-cuff video today, as I just came off of streaming the third chapter of the Xenologue in Fire Emblem Engage on Maddening mode. This is my first time through the Xenologue. We're going straight into Maddening, and it's been quite the time. But Chapter 3 in particular was a little bit over the top, so I just want to talk about it. Not too much of an intro today. Just want to talk about really the Xenologue as a whole and how I'm feeling about it. So we're going to do just that. Starting off, I have absolutely been enjoying the Xenologue experience thus far. Chapter 1, I was actually a little excited and experienced a little bit of trepidation, I suppose, as I went into it. Because I didn't have the chance to play it until the Xenologue had already been out for about 12, 14 hours. So people had been talking about the fact that even the first chapter was really, really hard. So I was kind of curious, like, what could I possibly be walking into here? And I knew ahead of time that units would be scaled down, that we would have set loadouts, that classes would be changed, all that type of stuff, because it had been covered in the pre-release material. It had been talked about via Nintendo and intelligence systems on places like Twitter, things like that. Serenus Forest was covering all the information as it was coming out, all that type of good stuff. So I knew to expect that. What I didn't know to expect was just how much of a disadvantage most of your units would be at compared to the enemy on Maddening. I also wasn't expecting the first map to be, how about just an endless wave of wolves with a couple of support units, like a couple mages and archers thrown in there, just for the sake of variety. But I was able to put together a pretty cohesive strategy really, really quickly. The best thing that I was able to do was I had Louis and Kagetsu, and I got them loaded out, Louis with Hector and Kagetsu with Ike. And they pretty much were able to handle everything that was thrown at them. Louis in particular just went off on a mad rampage across the entire right side of the map. And by turn 3, I think, had cleared like half of the map. He was just tearing wolves apart left, right, and center. And then pretty much just went and dueled the boss to a standstill until the rest of my units were able to clear the other units on the map, the reinforcements that came in, archers, mages, wolves, all that type of good stuff. And then we crushed the boss. And it wasn't too bad. I actually felt really good about how positively everything turned out. Didn't have to reset. It was my first try. I used a couple of Dragon Veins because of bad RNG and stuff like that. But, like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And people in my chat were very, very impressed. So I'm quite proud of how I handled that. And I'm happy with the challenge that it presented. It wasn't impossible. It wasn't like Lunatic plus or whatever in Awakening, where all you can use is Frederick or you will literally lose everything. But it was hard. It was harder than anything else that I've experienced in Engage thus far. And I've played through Blind on hard. I've played through about 2/3 of a run on Maddening. And nothing else has lived up to this. I haven't had to sit there and plan, like, okay, here are what the enemy stats are. Here are what their abilities are. Here's what I have available in terms of stats and abilities and emblems. If I utilize this strategy, how does that play out? It felt much more like I was actually planning my moves ahead, like in something like chess. And I haven't felt that way in a Fire Emblem game, or felt the need to think on that level in a Fire Emblem game in a long time, while also having the challenge that's causing me to think that way be not complete BS. So it was a really, really nice balance. The story thus far has been very, very interesting. I'll talk about that in depth once we talk about the 3 chapters that I've done, but I just wanted to mention it because we went from that like really challenging fight, a little bit of story prior, to going into more quite interesting story with nice writing and everything. They compelled me to keep going on top of just wanting to see the new combat challenge. So that was very impressive as well. Chapter 2, things got a little bit more hairy, a little bit more frustrating, I would say. Not to any sort of like world-ending capacity. It didn't break the bank for me or anything, but there was a lot of reinforcements. It was one of the things that I was saying during my stream was more reinforcements, please. And I was saying that a lot because there was just so many reinforcements. But at the end of the day, once I figured out what was going to be happening, we did one reset just to kind of realize, okay, we need to just change up a couple of strategic things here. I didn't think about it far enough in advance like I did with the first chapter. It became manageable. It was definitely hard. We were at one point on assault from all sides, just desperately using every resource we had available to us to survive. But that's what was interesting. We utilized all of our resources, and we survived. It took some Dragon Crystal usage, it took some thinking and plotting and planning, but we got there. It didn't come across as impossible, not once. The solution was there, I just needed to find it, and that was very, 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 very satisfying. One of my viewers in channel mods, Segno, described it as this DLC being less about team building and party composition and optimization as it was about each battle being a puzzle. And that's very accurate because the devs know exactly what you have available for the most part. You know, there's some variance in terms of what emblems you're going to have depending on where in the story you're choosing to do the Xenologue, all that type of stuff. But they at least know what emblems you could have. And then they also have very tight control on what units you have, what their classes are, and what weapons you have. And I think that's vital because you can make some truly busted stuff in this game. When we're talking about upgrading weapons up to potentially +5, putting emblem engraves, one of, God, what do we have now? Like 16, 17, something like that? No, more than that even. It's probably like 18, 19. You could do some wild stuff before you even consider classes and class changes and skill inheritance and all that type of stuff. So having the devs be able to design a very tight experience because they know what tools they're giving you and what will work and what won't, that's really nice. I've been very much enjoying that aspect of things. When it came down to the bosses, they weren't actually that hard. It was more just the endless waves or nigh endless waves of reinforcements that were a pain to deal with. But we got there in the end, brought them down, and we were able to move on to Chapter 3. And Chapter 3 is where things maybe started to jump the shark a little bit. If you were watching the stream yesterday, by the time this is going up anyway, it'll be yesterday. Yeah, I won't have this up tonight. Yeah. Sorry, I just timing things. Yeah, if you watched the VOD yesterday, then you'll know that Chapter 3 was the majority of the 4-hour-ish stream between planning and just going through the level and so many things happening. Because Chapter 3 is kind of off the chain. There are so many enemy units who are generally more powerful than you, coming at you from almost every direction, literally from turn 1. Between mage cannoneers, bombarding you from afar, backup units like swordmasters and berserkers getting in for chip damage, wyverns and griffin knights assaulting you from the sides, from over the bridge. It's pretty wild. Now, at first, I was feeling a little overwhelmed until I was able to establish a little bit of a beachhead. We cleared out the initial glut of enemies, and we established a choke point, grouped up, healed up, and were able to start pushing forward. What caught me off guard, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew there was no way after the reinforcement bonanza that Chapter 2 was that we weren't going to have reinforcements in Chapter 3. What I wasn't expecting was 2 turns of 3 Wyvern Riders and 3 Griffin Knights, one on the left, one on the right, for a total of 12 Wyvern Knights and Griffin Riders over the course of 2 turns. Then I wasn't also expecting, as I moved forward to try and buy myself space, another wave of Wyvern Knights and Griffin Riders. 12 more. That was a lot. That was scary. What I then also wasn't expecting, once I finally cleared those out, and it took some doing, especially trying to navigate Nil. Nil is the one who can actually fight. Nil is the one who's useless with the axe. Yes. of trying to maneuver Nil around, constantly getting shot by mage cannoneers, constantly under threat of getting dive bombed by a wyvern or a griffin. Then what was it? I think another 10 total, 5 per turn for 2 turns of wyvern knights and griffin riders that spawned at the end of the bridge. So we had a total of, like 34 wyvern knights and griffin riders, if I'm remembering how many there were per wave, something like that. It was insane. Absolute madness. And it made the whole battle such a slog. And again, because the entire time we're getting shot by mage cannoneers, and like, there actually isn't great, but it was good enough, especially if you've got bad luck with RNG like I do. Constantly having Nil wind up dying, constantly having other units get killed because they got hit by a mage cannoneer when I really needed them not to, but there was literally nowhere else that they could go, etc., etc., etc. But then you finally get to the bosses. And you're like, okay, we're starting to deal with the reinforcements. The ones from the south are still coming. But maybe, just maybe, we can rush down the bosses. And then, spoilers, I guess. Diamant summons not 1, not 2, but 3 spirits using Veronica's Call Heroes ability. And all 3 of them were emblems. And that's where I about damn lost my mind. Because now, at this point, we're still under attack by wyvern and griffin reinforcements even. We're still under fire from mage cannoneers. The couple of flying units that I was able to bring that would be up to snuff with the enemies, we're desperately trying to take them out, but they're all standing on defense tiles, so they're actually kind of hard to hit, even though they're armored units, so it was taking forever to bring them down. There's still like 5 more shooting at us from behind the boss's lines. And then now all of the boss's entire retinue, both bosses, are charging us, and 3 emblems just got summoned, and I didn't know what I was going to be able to do. Fortunately, we did have Dodge Tank Yunaka with us with Karn, and that was able to buy us the time that we needed, because she just stood and delivered. She stood there in her smoke, and she dueled Alchrist to a standstill, and she kept any other enemy units from getting through to us, and through a lot of trial and error and moving units around and messing with RNG and using almost all of my time crystals, we were able to kill all the reinforcements, and we were able to bring them down. That said, it was not just hard. And a lot of people were joking like, oh, is it maddening, Tom? Yes, it's a little bit maddening, as a matter of fact. And the thing is, yes, I don't have all the emblems available to me currently due to where I'm at in my run. So that would help if I had all of my tools available to me, and if I had all of the playable characters. But I'm pretty good at these games. I have a lot of experience with these games. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's just a fact. Anyone who's trying to do this, who does not have the amount of time invested with strategy games and Fire Emblem in particular, as I do, they're gonna have a real hard time. And that's fine, because it's not like you have to play it on Maddening. This isn't the default difficulty of the DLC. But man, if they did Maddening and Engaged, and then they try to jump into Maddening with the Xenologue, good luck. Good luck. Now, that said, I am looking forward to seeing what else there is to offer. We have, from what I've heard, got 3 more chapters left to go. I've seen the start of Chapter 4. It's looking like a really cool throwback to Radiant Dawn with a big army battle. It's hopefully going to be a little less obnoxious. We'll see, since there will be other targets for the enemies other than just me. We'll see how that plays out. But I am enjoying myself. I am very much enjoying myself, and I'm excited to get my hands on all of the characters from this DLC. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. As far as the story is concerned, I have a lot of questions. I'm very intrigued. The actual writing for the characters has been way better. So much better than any of the writing in the base game, honestly. Like, if the writing in the base game for Engage was like a 5, this is more like a 7, maybe an 8. It's much better. And, you know, it's not top-notch or anything. It's not the next great American epic or anything like that. but compared to the base game, it's pretty damn good. So I'm excited to see where things go. There's a lot of interesting story questions. Again, it's not really a spoiler because it's just right there if you're paying attention, but I guess spoilers for an observation that I made. But if you notice, every enemy that you've been fighting, including all of those human soldiers and like the corrupted by circumstance nobles and everything, are all literally corrupted. They're all vulnerable to weapons that are effective against the corrupted. So that's interesting, concerning, brings up a lot of implications. And then I'm curious about where the story of Nell and Nil is going, because it's clearly going somewhere, especially after something that happened at the end of Chapter 3, after we'd finished the battle, that I won't go into here in case you haven't seen it yet. But there's stuff going on in the background. There's ulterior motives and weird happenings, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. So honestly, it's just impressive that I'm excited to see where the writing goes and Engage. And then finally, the music. There's only been a couple of new tracks in Engage, and every single one of them is an absolute goddamn banger. Like, whoa, the OST in the Xenologue is kind of insane. Like, between remixes, like evil, dark, dingy remixes of tracks that we know quite well if we've played Engage at all, which you probably have if you're playing the Xenologue, and then a couple new tracks that almost give me like Nier Automata vibes. It's been very impressive, and I have absolutely been bopping every second of the way through the Xenologue. Even with how difficult some of these maps have been and are surely only going to get more difficult, the music is still absolutely baller. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all of my thoughts at the moment for this midpoint wrap-up for how the Xenologue is going. We'll have more streams coming up in the future. You can find my schedule in my Discord or posted in the community tab on the channel. And you'll see streams go up as I post them. So if you want to get those notifications, make sure that you're subscribed. If you're curious, if you haven't seen any of my VODs before, there's a link to all of my Engage stream VODs in the description. You can check that out. And if you found this video fun or interesting, or any of my other content informative, interesting, you learned something, or you just liked it, please do subscribe and leave a like. Small creator trying to grow, and it's hard out here in the YouTube wastes, and I need your help to get it done. So if you do that, that'd be great. That said, though, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.